right before the Seder begins. And then we go right into the first step of the wine itself, the drinking of the wine. Now it's very interesting. There's 4 cups in the Passover Seder. There's 4 distinct cups. They each have a specific cup. Each cup has its own name in the Passover Seder. The first cup is called the cup of sanctification. And then he would say the blessing, and it says he blessed it. And it would have sounded like this. He would have said, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, poreh bari hagafen. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. And there goes the cup of sanctification, which every believer must drink from. Then we see that this wonderful, right in front of me, what you see here, this is actually a washing bowl to be ceremonially clean before you start and you go through the touching of the Seder and the actual individual elements. It's interesting that you would have to wash your hands, and it's customary to wash somebody else's hands and to serve them. And then we would wash our hands, we dip our hands in the bowl, we sprinkle, and then we wash our hands, and we get ceremonially ready for our Seder. And then we come to our Seder elements. It is customary at this point we take the parsley. We take the parsley. And we take the parsley and we dip it in salt water. And as we take that parsley, if you can see it, you see how the salty drips come off of the parsley. And this represents the tears of bondage that our people went through in slavery. So it was dipped. Oh, we get to the matzah. There's a little bag right here, if you can see this. This bag is called the matzah tash. Within the matzah tash, there's 3 pieces of matzah. 1, 2, and a third. And the rabbis teach that these 3 pieces of matzah are one. And if you ask a rabbi, you say, Rabbi, what do the 3 pieces in one mean? He'll say, we don't know. Some say that it's the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But it's very interesting what the next thing is that we do. You see, because you have the first and the second. And this next custom, we take the matzah bread out of the center of the matzah tash bag. At this bread, and if you can see this piece of matzah, he would take it, and then we take the other half of the matzah. We put it back in the center of the matzah tash bag, and then we look at the matzah very carefully. Within this matzah, this unleavened bread, the unleavened bread was made in haste. It was made because there was no time for the bread to rise. They had to rush out of Egypt with staff in hand, and there was no time for the bread to rise. Now the next part of this gets very interesting. Now this is what becomes called the afikomen. You see, we have this little white piece of linen here. And we take this little white piece of pure white linen, and we take the piece of matzah, and we wrap it in the linen. And we wrap the matzah, and we wrap the matzah. And the next part is very interesting because we take this afikomen and we bury it until later. The afikomen in the Passover Seder It's hidden to later be redeemed. Now, we get to the part of the Seder where the tradition is for the child to ask 4 questions. And then you take out your little Passover Haggadah. This would be the book, and this would be the response of the father. That is the answer. And then at this point of the Seder, the father will tell the story of the Exodus, the story of redemption, the story of the slavery and the bondage, and how God brought our people out of slavery. And then we take the second cup. After we tell about Egypt and what happened, we remember the plagues that God struck, each of the plagues, and we recite these plagues. And we take our napkin and we take the second cup. Now that we've drank the cup of redemption, or the cup of salvation, we take the second cup. And we dip our finger in the second cup and we say, frogs, blood, lice, beasts, cattle disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and death of the firstborn. And we recall each one of those plagues and we remember them. At this point, they would sing the Hallel. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates. The fruit of the vine would be next. Because we would be drinking at this point, we would be drinking the second cup to remind us of the second cup of judgment. Now there are 2 final cups left, and these are very, very point. We would wash our hands again by ourselves. And then we take the upper matzah. We take the upper matzah and we actually dip the matzah. At this point, he was taking the bitter herbs and he was taking the marar. And he would take this horseradish. And the horseradish is a reminder of the bitterness of slavery. And the horseradish is meant to bring a tear to our eyes so that we would remember. Take the marar to remind us that even some bitterness, this is our apple mix, which reminds us of the bricks and mortar. And if you look at them, if you actually look at the little chunks of the apple and the way that the apple is cut up, it looks like little tiny bricks, and it's red. And we remember that even with the bitterness, the double dipping, even with the bitterness of the horseradish, there is always the sweetness. Everybody enjoys the feasting part. But after the meal, we get to find, I should say the children get to find the afikomen. They actually get to find what we buried earlier. So the child will go, the child will hunt, and the afikomen is the afikomen is resurrected and brought back. At this point in time, the child receives a special blessing, and we call this redeeming the afikomen. The child will actually get a gift in exchange for the afikomen. We're basically redeeming the afikomen. Redeemer. And there has to be redemption with the afikomen. We would take this afikomen, and at this point the afikomen comes out and is no longer wrapped in the white linen. No longer being wrapped in the white linen, makes its reappearance. Broke the bread during his Seder. It was distributed to each individual. Just the afikomen was distributed to each individual. This has always been part of the Seder. Then he took the third cup, And he lifted the third cup. Is very special. This third cup is called the cup of redemption. And you can look this up and do the research for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years now. This has always been the cup of redemption. Rome will still call this the cup of redemption. And they will still bury the matzah. And they will still pull the matzah out and redeem it. And they will still unwrap the matzah, not knowing that this Messiah. At this time, Yeshua took the cup that Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Amen. And he blessed the bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi alachem. Amen. Min haaretz. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. The fourth cup is called the cup of praise. The cup of praise.